Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. Just a couple things before we get started. Sorry for the delay. There were a lot of people logging in, and we wanted to make sure everyone was there once we got started. So sorry. Thanks for hanging in there. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end with our special webinar guest, Andy Cernovitz. So if you have questions, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in the GoToWebinar window, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end of the webinar. Also, the most common question we get at our webinars is this being recorded? And we are recording this, so you guys will all be able to see this at a later date.
Hi, everybody. This is Kim Stiglitz. I'm the Lifecycle Director here at Vertical Response, and I just wanted to give you a quick bio on Andy in case you don't know how credible and all the great accomplishments he has, because he has quite a few. He teaches word-of-mouth marketing and is the CEO of Gas Pedal, a word-of-mouth consulting company, and socialmedia.org, the community for social media leaders at the world's greatest brands. He taught word-of-mouth marketing at Northwestern University and internet entrepreneurship at the Wharton School of Business, ran a business incubator, and started half a dozen companies. He's created the Word-of-Mouth Marketing Association and the Association for Interactive Marketing. And his latest project, wordofmouth.org, is a home for the vision and voices that energize the word-of-mouth movement. So without further ado, here's Andy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for dialing in. I'm really glad you're here, and I love talking to folks like Vertical Response customers about word-of-mouth marketing, because if you get this email thing and you learn about how to reach out to those folks who want to hear from you, you're exactly the kind of folks who are great at word-of-mouth. So this talk is going to be a little bit different than other marketing talks you get. It's not going to be about technology. It's not about social media. It's not about metrics or how to tweet. That we're going to be talking about relationships and love and emotions. So if you're a lawyer or an MBA, you might find this uncomfortable, but I promise you this is real marketing, and it works, and it's a better way to do marketing. Because relationships are what drive people to go out there and work on behalf of your company. That love is the reason people talk about you. It's that passion that makes them stand up and share who you are and what you do. That emotions, that liking you is what gets people to want to tell their friends about you. And as people bring their friends to do business with you because they respect you and they like you and they feel good about you, all those new customers that you're acquiring through word of mouth replace the customers that you would be paying to acquire through traditional advertising and other acquisition means. So all of this relationship-based stuff is what we call word-of-mouth marketing, but it really starts back with something that we're all familiar with, which is the older idea of permission marketing, that customers say, I give you permission to talk to me. And that's something that email and social media and word of mouth share. Now, here's what's sort of magical about these things. They're the only kinds of marketing that people ask for. They subscribe, they follow you. They're the only kinds of marketing that people share, they forward, they pop it on their wall, they pass it along. But I think most important is that these are the only kinds of marketing that if we screw up, and if we anger the customer and we provide poor products and services, that they can tell us to stop talking to them. They can unsubscribe, they can unfollow, and they can shut that door and take away that permission that we love so much. So everything we're going to talk about today comes back to that idea of permission and respect and building a loving, trusting relationship with someone who's going to go out there and tell their friends to do business with you. Now, important idea here is that it is not social media that you buy. It's social media. It's a tool for building and extending relationships. And it is so easy to freak out about the latest social media news. And either we freak out or our boss freaks out every time someone announces a new social platform. And this month it's Pinterest, and before that Google Plus and Twitter and Facebook, and every time Facebook burps, everybody runs around in a panic. But It's not about these technologies. The lesson here is that it is what you share, not where you share it. That all social media is a place to have a conversation. And if you get good at talking with your customers and getting your customers wanting to talk to you and talk about you, the platform and the technology where that conversation happens doesn't matter anymore. And that's where we win, because we're good at talking to customers. And if we pay attention to the conversation, whatever new technologies come down the road, we can just follow our customers wherever they go in some new social platform and keep the same conversation going. So, why do we talk about social media so much? We do it because word of mouth is hard. It's about these relationship things. It's about earning a recommendation. And ideas like becoming a brand worth talking about, earning a recommendation, isn't as obvious as buying an ad. And what we're going to do in the next few minutes is learn how you get to that higher level of being a brand worth talking about. How do you get to the point where people love to tell their friends about you? Step one, it's about making people happy. Because happy customers tell their friends about you. There's all these classic stories of happy customers telling people about businesses they love. And here's some of my favorite stories. I love the Red Envelope catalog. Because when you order from Red Envelope, you get this gift in the mail, and it's regular catalog gifts, but the gift shows up in this gorgeous red box and this big white bow, and it shows up at a wedding shower and a birthday party, and everybody says, "Where did you get that? Where'd you get that?" And that's a really interesting question, because normally you give someone a gift, they talk about the gift. But with a couple bucks worth of packaging and wrapping paper, Red Envelope has changed it from a discussion about a thing to a discussion about the merchant. Everyone's asking where they bought it. That little bit of wrapping paper made a room full of people so happy that they started a word-of-mouth conversation about the catalog. I love the Drury Inn. So a mid-range hotel chain, they're just fine. You go to the Drury Inn, and every night you stay there, there's a little sign next to your phone that says, "Free phone calls every night you stay at the Drury Inn." And you pick up the phone and you call a buddy and you're like, "Dude, hey, I'm at the Drury Inn. I get free phone calls. I have nothing to say to you, but it's free." And everyone's calling because we're so surprised to get this nice free thing from a hotel, which usually overcharge us, that we start talking about it. It's that happiness thing again. So every night, for the cost of a few long-distance calls, Drury Inn has thousands of their customers in their buildings telemarketing for them for free, because they made them happy. And then, of course, is the grand master of word of mouth, and that's Zappos. Zappos.com, the shoe store. Now, no one should buy from Zappos. When you think about it, they sell the usual shoes. They never discount, which means anything that they sell, you could buy cheaper somewhere else. Except they're really great at making us happy. That you can call them in the middle of the night and talk about your weird feet and bunions and wedding anxieties, and they'll talk to you all night long. And you can order stuff and look at it and fondle it and humor your weird fetishes about shoes. And then they'll take them back because Zappos always forgives you when you make a mistake. And the result of this is that everyone has a Zappos story. Everyone tells their friends about this amazing service. And they've got unbelievable word of mouth. Now, all of these techniques are what bring us to the definition of word of mouth marketing. So word of mouth is two big things. It's giving people a reason to talk about your stuff and making it easier for that conversation to take place. Now, word of mouth used to be luck. You put out a product, you did a press release, you hoped someone would talk about you. But what's new here, word of mouth marketing, are these specific two steps, these specific things you can do to cause a word of mouth conversation that's measurable and trackable and causes people to recommend you. So that idea of, giving people a reason to talk are the examples we just heard. Great customer service and the red wrapping paper and the free phone calls. It's things that instigate conversations. The second part are the tools and technology. This is how do you share? How do you forward? Things like vertical response. And the important thing to remember is that the first part, what you should talk about, has to be first. If you start with the second part, what should we do on Facebook? you're getting it backwards. And if someone tries to sell you a solution that's about how do you make it easier to share, but hasn't first answered the question, who would be talking about us and what would they say, then something's wrong, because you need to know who's talking and what they're talking about before you decide if email or Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or whatever is the right place to have that conversation. Now, looking more into this idea of giving people a reason to talk about your stuff, I think the classic example of that is Krispy Kreme. And we can all remember the first time someone brought us to Krispy Kreme. And we were brought to Krispy Kreme. You didn't go there. Someone told you, you got to get to Krispy Kreme. There's something you've got to see. And what was that thing we had to see? Hot donuts. The big neon sign, hot now, hot now. And you go and you get them right out of the machine. And you'd eat these amazing donuts. And that was enough to create a word-of-mouth phenomena that got millions of people talking about them and a huge national success and an IPO all around one great reason to talk. Hot now. Now, of course, Krispy Kreme isn't the hot brand that we were talking about, and people aren't talking about them anymore because they forgot about their reason to talk. And now you can get your Krispy Kremes cold and shrink-wrapped by the sink and the garbage can at the gas station. And people don't tell their friends about food you buy at the gas station. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is that when you have a word-of-mouth topic, when you get people talking, you can do huge things with your brand, but you need to protect and preserve that word-of-mouth topic, promote that topic. And if the conversation ends or people aren't talking about the topic anymore, then you need to come up with a new word-of-mouth topic. But if you drop the topic, the conversation stops. So if you look at the definition of word-of-mouth topics, there are 100 people on this phone call who instantly could identify the restaurant that served that sandwich. There's only one in the world. So that's a corned beef sandwich from the Carnegie Deli in New York City. Now, I would argue that it is the best corned beef sandwich in the world, but it's also a 7-inch tall corned beef sandwich. And what is the lesson here? The lesson is that, if it was just a 2-inch tall corned beef sandwich, a normal size sandwich, it would still be the best corned beef in the world. But it's the size that is the reason for the word-of-mouth conversation. It's the size that has 1 million tourists a year going to New York and saying, going home and saying, Paul, you should see what they eat in New York City. That it's not good enough to be the best or to have a great product. On top of that, you need to do something that is a word-of-mouth conversation starter, something that's your word-of-mouth topic above and beyond just being good. Now, what makes a great word-of-mouth topic is something that has to be portable, repeatable, and emotional. So what does that mean? That means that someone has to be able to hear it, big sandwich, and they have to be able to repeat it accurately. They have to be excited about it. That when other people hear it, they need to be able to repeat it. It has to be sayable. Now, what's equally important is that the topic isn't a brand message or a slogan or a tagline, that marketing copy doesn't get shared. The word-of-mouth topic is what gets shared. Now, a great way to think about this is thinking about Apple Computer back in 1996. So Apple was on the skids. Nobody knew if they were going to make it. They brought back Steve Jobs to get people talking about Apple again. And what was the topic of conversation? Now, any other computer manufacturer would have talked about operating systems or software design or technology, and only geeks would have cared about operating systems or software design or technology. But the word-of-mouth topic that got people talking about Apple again were that the iMacs were cute. They were pink and blue and yellow and green, and everybody got so excited, and the whole world starts talking about cute computer, cute computer, cute computer, cute computer. And as it keeps getting repeated, every 5th or 50th or 500th person who hears about the cute computer looks and learns about the technology and the operating system and the brand features. That the word-of-mouth topic, cute computer, is a carrier. The brand message rides along with it. Real people repeat a great word-of-mouth topic. The brand message, the important things, go with it. And if you flip them, and you try to get people to repeat your advertising slogan, they don't do it because real people don't talk like marketers. So this is really hard for those of us who are good marketers because we want to write copy. We're great at writing copy. We like to write snappy stuff. And the better we are at writing snappy stuff, the more we suck at writing word-of-mouth topics that are compelling. So a good test to keep you out of trouble is if you think you've got a really hot word-of-mouth viral topic, and take that thing, type it up, and paste it into the headline of a press release. And if it looks good in a press release or a web page or a brochure, that means it's marketing, and it's not a word-of-mouth topic. Now here's an interesting example. So these are some screenshots recently from Oreo's Facebook page. And these are interesting questions because these aren't marketing questions. These are relationship questions. Did you grow up in an Oreo cookie-loving family? Like this post if you smile when eating Oreos. I mean, these are silly, but these word-of-mouth topics that are relationship-based get outshared 5-to-1 over marketing messages posted on the same page. That relationships are what people like to pass along. And so when you look at the math on this, you add the likes and the comments and the shares, and you multiply it by the 150 or so friends that the average person has on Facebook, you got 4.3 million people just found out that they're the friend of a cookie. And this is amazing, and it is free, and it is easy, and that every one of these impressions comes with the personal endorsement of that friend. And that's a level of engagement and endorsement that traditional marketing just doesn't know how to do. So what does this mean? Where does this go? How do we start this kind of relationship stuff? And it starts with this idea of love. That love gets people talking, and love is this driver of word of mouth. And there are 3 big lessons of love in marketing. Lesson number 1 of love in marketing is that new love is powerful. That when we first find out about a product, we talk a lot. I mean, picture a teenager in love. Oh my God, he's so dreamy. Text, IM, chat. They can't shut up. That exact same chatty enthusiasm from a teenager in love is exactly the same behavior from an executive with a new iPad. Oh my God, I'm in love. Text. They keep talking about it. So ask for the word of mouth when people are freshly in love. Second lesson of love in marketing, love and money don't mix. That when you pay for word of mouth, it usually kills the word of mouth. And pay could mean cash or incentives or a referral fee or bring 2 friends, you get a discount or you get one free or any kind of spiff or compensation. And here's why. If I love your stuff and I'm going to tell my friends, God, I love these guys, they're amazing, and then you offer me some kind of freebie, and then I'm going to tell my friend you're great, except then my friend's going to find out I'm getting paid, and now the whole thing is just sort of weird and awkward, and it's creepy. I'm just going to say nothing. So it got too weird, and you killed the word of mouth. And if somebody isn't going to recommend you, if they're not already inclined to make that word of mouth recommendation, and there's nothing you can offer to pay them that's going to suddenly say, well, I hate it, but I'm going to recommend it anyway. So keep the compensation away from the marketing. And the third thing to pay attention to, the third lesson of love in marketing, is this idea that nobody talks more than a lover scorned. Those exes, they say stuff to everybody. They say stuff that's not true. There's nobody angrier than an ex. And what that means is that when you've got a happy customer who's been telling their friends how great you are, and they've been out there happily marketing and saying good things about you, and then something goes wrong, product breaks or a bad service experience or something that says you didn't treat them right, now they're embarrassed because they told everybody how great you are, and that greatness, that thing is broken. And so how do we cover our embarrassment? We have to tell 10 times more people how awful it is. We need to overcompensate by spreading negative word of mouth. So the lesson here is that word of mouth marketing in many ways isn't marketing at all. That in many ways, word of mouth marketing starts with the sale and is really about lifetime customer service. and keeping your fans happy and in love for years after the original transaction. So all of that is sort of the what is word of mouth and how does it work. Now I want to talk a little bit about why do people tell their friends about you? Well, what are their motivations? And this is where the emotions come in. There are three big emotional drivers of why we're going to refer a company or a product. It's about you, the company. You do great stuff. I love your product. I love your service. You treat me right, so I talk about it. It's about me, the talker, that I feel good when I make recommendations. So I want to make more recommendations if you can make me feel better. Or it's about us, the community. I want to belong to something bigger, and talking about it, that's how I show that I belong. So to break these down, motivation number one is the you motivation, that you are a great company and you make great stuff. And that's why people want to recommend you. But being good isn't good enough anymore to start a conversation, because there's lots of good products and there's lots of good services, and it's not enough to just put out something decent. That's what gets you a seat at the table. That's not what makes you remarkable. Being remarkable is what Seth Godin calls the purple cow. And what's the lesson of the purple cow? The lesson of the purple cow says, if you're driving through the country and you see a herd of cows, it's a herd of cows, whatever. They live in the country anyway. If you're driving through the country, you see a herd of purple cows, you pick up the phone and you call your friends, oh my God, I saw a herd of purple cows. It's exciting. It's remarkable. That being remarkable, something worth remarking upon, is what causes people to make a recommendation. That being worth remarking on is more than just doing the job. So that's what, I can't teach you here how to be remarkable. That's what you've got to go do every day, trying to make better products and better services. Now, there's a problem with a company that's been really good for a long time, and that's called the chocolate problem. And the chocolate problem goes something like this. The chocolate problem is that no one has ever picked up the phone, called a friend, and said, dude, have you tried chocolate? It's awesome. Because, duh, everybody knows that chocolate is awesome, so there's no reason to talk about it. So if you've been a good company doing good stuff for a long time, the conversation tends to die because you've got the chocolate problem. Everyone's familiar with you, so no one's talking about you. This is also the Ritz-Carlton problem, which is you go to the Ritz and you stay in the rooms, and the rooms are beautiful and the service is impeccable and the food is delicious. And you don't call your friends and say, dude, the Ritz is really nice. Because, of course, it's the Ritz. But you go to the Drury Inn and you get a free phone call, like jail, and you're so excited that you're telling everybody you know about this wonderful free phone call. So what you need to do is find solutions to the chocolate problem when people stop talking about you. Now, a great example of this is Google Maps. If you think back to the first time you saw Google Maps, remember they were better maps. They slid around and they zoom in and out, and they're much, much better than what came before. So for 6 months, everyone's talking about Google Maps and how great they are. And then everybody knows they're better maps, and no one's talking about it. So they have the chocolate problem. So they need to do something to restore the conversation, to restart the conversation. So what did they do? Satellite view. And each and every one of us looked at the top of our own house and went, oh, that's my house, from space. And we all get very excited, and everyone's talking about Google Maps again. They've restarted the conversation. They solved the chocolate problem. Now, what's really interesting about satellite view is that it's completely useless. Like, nobody needs to see the top of their own house. It's just a great reason to talk. And that's an important lesson of word of mouth, is that a great reason to talk doesn't have to be a meaningful brand attribute or product feature. It just has to be a great reason to talk. And if you follow Google, you'll see they go sort of alternating useful, useless. So better maps, useful. Satellite view, useless. Live traffic reports, useful. Street cam, useless. And you just keep going. But what they're doing is they're making sure that every 6 months there's always a reason to talk about you. Now, the second motivation is the me motivation. The me motivation says, I talk about your product not because you're such a great product, but because it makes me feel good, that I like to help people. You know, these are the people who come up to you in a bookstore or a drugstore when you're staring at the shelf and they say, oh, that one's great, you should buy that one. Yet they want to help you. And that's helpfulness is one of those motivations that makes people feel better when they make recommendations. And there's three other key emotions that drive these recommendations. There's the desire to be smart. So people who want to be smart need to be fed information. They want to talk about your product because they look good and they're the expert. So those people need newsletters and blogs and training videos and facts and a wiki and everything you can give them that gives them more to talk about. It can be company history and it can be obscure data points, whatever it is. If someone likes to talk about you and they get off on feeling like an expert, give them everything they need to truly be an expert. The second thing that drives people to talk, second emotion, is ego, pride. People want to be important. You know, being a frequent flyer isn't really about getting free travel. I mean, giving free flights to a frequent flyer is like giving a pie to the winner of a pie eating contest. That what gets frequent flyers raving about their program is the priority boarding lane and the red carpet and the first class upgrades. Is all these things that make us feel important. So when you've got people who respond to ego to talk about you, you should give them a private phone number to talk directly to their executives, preferably one they can share with their friends, and special reservation line, and advanced preview of products. If I had a car dealer, I'd bring in all the new model year cars and have a private reception just for my VIP customers sometime after hours where they felt like it was something unique. So anything that makes people feel more important gets these folks talking. And then the third big category that gets people talking is the desire for fun. That people just love to share stuff that makes them laugh. And this is all the viral crud that comes into your inbox and everything your mom sends you and everything people share on Facebook. It's all the fun stuff. Now you'll notice the fun stuff is not a cheesy corporate-produced viral email gimmick. This is stuff that genuinely makes people enjoy talking about your brand. I think one of my favorite all-time examples of fun is White Castle restaurants. You know, White Castle has the chocolate problem, meaning everyone knows about their little hamburgers. All the guys here know how many we can eat in 5 minutes and how many we can keep in our mouth at one time. And so no one talks about White Castle. So what White Castle does is once a year, Valentine's Day, White Castle becomes the Love Castle. And they have reservations only service, and there are red tablecloths, and there are roses on the table, and there's tableside service, and you can make reservations to bring your sweetie to have a special meal at White Castle on Valentine's Day. And the whole thing is just over the top silly. And it is so much fun that you tell everyone you know about this crazy thing, and you put it on Facebook, and you put it on YouTube, and they've started this great word-of-mouth conversation about them. And the final motivation is the us motivation. It's the desire to become part of a group, being part of a community. And when we feel like we belong to something, it gets us talking about it. Now, it's powerful, this idea of brands tying to belongingness, that if you ask a teenager, you say, kid, how'd you like to be used by the man for shameless marketing purposes? And the kid will say, heck no, I will not be used by the man for shameless marketing purposes, except they will say it covered in logos head to toe, Gap, Nike, Under Armour, Hollister, like an NASCAR driver. Because brands are how they show they belong. And there are so many examples of people who belong to business-affiliated groups. You know, an extreme example is the Harley Owners Group, where the brands they support, every logo on a T-shirt shows who they are as part of a community. And by far, the greatest example of this is the Maker's Mark Ambassador Program. That, I'm going to break down some of the elements of this program because it is really unbelievable how this one niche product has created such an amazing fan base, and it's something that you can do too. So go to makersmark.com and sign up to be an ambassador, and you take the silly pledge, I hereby swear to stop my poor friends from drinking bad whiskey by turning them on to the pleasure of Maker's Mark. And once you sign up, you start getting emails. But they are not getting coupons or special offers or email newsletters like all the rest of us send. They get notes from the founder, the fourth generation, CEO, who's saying things like, "Hey, here's a recipe somebody sent me," or "I'm going to be over at the Four Seasons in Tallahassee. Come by and I'm buying drinks." And it's such personal sharing that you realize you've got a belonging relationship and a connection with the owner. Then they send you membership cards, and your membership cards have your barrel number on them because you've got your name on an aging barrel of whiskey on a brass plaque, and you'll get the first bottle 6 years later. And so now when you're in a bar or a party and someone's talking about everything they know about, whiskey or scotch or whatever, you pull out your membership card and you say, "I'm an ambassador. I know a lot. I've got my own barrel." And we've got both the fun and the smart and the ego coming into play. And they send you 10 membership cards so you can give one of your membership cards to the person you're talking to remind them to go sign up the next day. Then they start sending you presents in the mail. You get all these gifts. And one year they sent wrapping paper to put a bottle of bourbon under the Christmas tree, including ribbon and a gift card and even Scotch tape. Because you put it under the tree and someone says, "Andy, why is there a Maker's Mark wrapping paper under the tree?" You say, "Because I'm a Maker's Mark ambassador." And you're talking about Maker's Mark again. And sometimes one year they sent bar glasses with a little Maker's Mark logo. And you have a party and you bring out your spare glasses and someone says to you, "Hey, buddy, you're supposed to stop stealing bar glasses when you graduate." And you say, "No, they gave these to me. I am important. I am an ambassador." And you add up all these kind of things they're doing, the membership cards and the emails and the gifts and the status you get. And the result is 500,000 people are out there talking about this brand because they feel smart and they belong and they're part of a community and they have a lot to say and they feel great. But in the end, it's just email and a little direct mail and a little bit of fun, and any one of us could put together a program like this. And this all then wraps around to one big idea that I'd like to end on. It comes around to this big question, which is, would anybody tell a friend about you? You need to ask this question every time you put out a new product, every time you run an ad. You need to say, is this good enough to be shared? Will people rip this ad out of a magazine and show it to people? Will they forward the email? Will they like it on Facebook? Because if it's not, you're going to have to go advertise. And advertising is expensive and hard, but the more you can get people to talk about you for free, the less you need to pay for conversations in the form of advertising. So you need to put this question on your wall, on your monitor, in your boardroom, anywhere you can, because it's the question that changes companies, that raises the bar, that challenges us to make it better. Can we be good enough that people will tell their friends about what we do? And if you're not making stuff that makes you wake up every day and shout, "I love what I'm doing, I have to tell you about it," then I compel you to go out there and make it more wonderful, outrageous, purple, delicious, smelly, goofy, life-saving, amazing, or deeply meaningful. Because if you can go out there and make people happy and treat people right, they will bring their friends to do business with you. And your company will grow and thrive as you surround yourself with these fans who are supporting you because they love you and they love what you do and they love how they make you feel. And this phenomena, this economic phenomena of word of mouth, means the good guys win because we support those who treat us right and we take business away from those who treat us wrong. And the companies that make people happy thrive and grow. And that is great for all of us. It's great for us as great businesses and our communities and ourselves and our families as customers. So go out there and make people happy, and they will talk about you. And it is so much more fun to work at a company that people love to talk about. And that's word-of-mouth marketing.
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. As we said at the beginning of the webinar, we are more than happy to take questions, and there are some in there now. Andy, are you able to see those on your side, or do you want me to read some for you?
I do not see them.
Okay. Well, first of all, so if we had a couple people who said this was a great webinar, thank you. And thank you, Andy, it was great. Kim and I enjoyed it a lot, and we were trying really hard not to laugh too much.
You were supposed to laugh. It's hard talking into a telephone.
It was like a good movie. We laughed, we cried. As soon as I saw the Carnegie Deli sandwich, I'm writing, Carnegie Deli.
Okay, so here's the first question. Is it not true that in order to develop brand ambassadors, one has to relinquish some power? This is potentially dangerous as one cannot always be sure that the brand ambassador will always deliver the right message and or in an appropriate manner. What can we do to avoid potential pitfalls?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
Okay, so I'll slice it up a little bit. First of all, you never had any power over what people say about you. That you can buy ads and you can put out corporate marketing, and what people say about it afterwards, you have no, they're going to say what they're going to say, and so you never had power in the first place to relinquish. And the more you buy ads and the more you do marketing, your carefully crafted marketing message isn't sending people to your beautifully crafted website or online store. That the more you do marketing, the more you send people to Google and Facebook and blogs and online reviews where the public says whatever the hell they want. So the more you market, the more you lose control. And the challenge here is that controlled marketing comes first, but word of mouth is the last thing people see before they decide to buy. So advertising comes first, but word of mouth gets the last word. So what do you do about this? You need to get more involved, that you need to encourage your brand ambassadors, you need to give them information, you need to share as much knowledge as you can so they know the kinds of things you want them to talk about. But what you can't do is you can't script them, you can't give them orders, you can't tell them what to say. All you can do is arm them with a ton of enthusiasm and positive feelings and all the official messages that you could possibly give them so they at least know the basics. And you should be happy with anything positive they give you. And if they're an ambassador who's out there speaking on your behalf and they don't quite get it right and they don't quite say what you want, but they're sending fresh customers to you, that's a win.
Okay, so here is another good question, or I think so. Andy, our university is seeing word-of-mouth marketing happening between our satisfied current students and their colleagues at school that they're encouraging to consider our degree programs. The first question, how can we say thank you to those folks who are sharing this word of mouth? And how do we tap into that connection when we meet these prospective students who have been recruited through word of mouth?
Yeah, so that's another good question. The best reward you can give somebody is recognition. You know, that if the word of mouth is happening online, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or someplace you can see it, you know, get in there and thank them. And you can just comment. I thank you so much for saying kind things. I work at the university. If you've got really active folks who are talking a lot about you, who are you can physically meet them somewhere, you know who they are, give them T-shirts and hats and, you know, stuff that lets them show their pride. That the fact that they're recruiting for you means they have pride in the product and the institution and they want to talk about it. So recognizing that pride and reinforcing it with more things that let them show off not only gives them the emotional rewards of realizing that, you've noticed and you care. But you also arm them with even something as simple as a T-shirt, which lets them further show off their affiliation, which means they're going to talk even more about you because it's become part of their everyday lifestyle. Don't insult them by offering them money or a referral fee or a bounty or something like that.
Okay, so do the 3 motivations that you spoke about in your presentation apply the same way for all age ranges?
There's a lot of, pretty much. And it's not, I didn't quite explain it right in that one person doesn't have all these motivations apply to a person. It's different people each really respond to one. You know, some people just love to be the expert. They want to know everything. other people love to feel important. The one I sort of glossed over, I didn't quite put on the slide, was the desire to be helpful. You know, those people, they're telling you to buy this thing because they want you to enjoy it. Some people just like to share for fun. So different ages, different groups of people, you try different word of mouth strategies that focus on one of those emotions, and you see who responds. And then if the right people are responding to the right emotional driver, then you do more of that one. You know, so I think there's probably research that says, you know, maybe, you know, older is more about feeling smart or expert, and younger might be more about the fun, but I haven't seen any particular pattern.
Okay. And here's another question. Are you saying we should completely avoid monetary-based incentives? What if the value proposition of our business is helping people lower their electricity bills, i.e. saving money?
I don't know about, I mean, the value of the business as a whole. I'm saying giving people paying referral fees for word of mouth is bad. That if you could lower someone's utility bills and they save a ton of money, they should be thrilled to tell their friends about that. That if you have to also pay them to tell their friends, then there's something wrong with the product or the service or the way you're asking them to make the referral. But if you just saved me $30 a month on my bills, what happens at that moment? I should tell everybody on Facebook. But do you have a Facebook page I could share? Just because I'm a customer, did I know you have a Facebook page? Maybe I need a sticker from my front door. Maybe I need a thank you note in an email that once I get to, hey, those are those guys who saved me the money on my electric bill, and you forward it to your friends at work and say, hey, these guys just helped me out. And you know, we're getting into some of the specific tactics that I talk about in the book in more detail. But it's this idea that that moment of customer satisfaction, you can help it spread with lots of techniques. You don't have to pay them to spread it for you.
So we have a lot of people asking for specific suggestions for their industry, but what if somebody works in an industry where people maybe don't always enjoy coming to them, or it isn't something that's really exciting or sexy, like insurance or being a dentist or something like that? Do these same things still apply?
Yes, the rules still apply. There are, and again, you got the short version of the talk here, so if you go to my website or look at the book, we break these out in a lot more detail. There are 5 T's. There's the talkers, who's going to tell their friends about you. The topic, what are they going to say? The tool, how are they going to share it? Taking part, how do you join that conversation once it starts? And tracking and measuring. But the big ones are talkers and topics. Who's going to talk and what are they going to say? And whatever your industry, it's about finding those folks who will talk to your future customers and tell your customers about how great you are. So if it's a dentist, your word of mouth talkers may be moms or teachers or spouses or other doctors, or you could figure out who it is in the community and figure out a topic. Why would somebody tell you about this dentist? The local orthodontist here in Austin near my kids' school brings in the kids for a tour of what it's like to be at a dentist office. And even though they've all been there, the kids love the little field trip. The teachers enjoy having something to do for a couple hours that's different. And they send the kids home with all of this fun games and puzzles and toys and toothbrushes that cause conversations about this one dental office. So whatever your field, there is, we're not talking about teeth cleaning. We're talking about an experience worth talking about. This gets back to the Apple example where it's not talking about operating systems and features and what might be the boring stuff. It's adding something above and beyond the everyday that becomes the topic of conversation.
Here's another great question. I work at a 50-year-old brand and am looking to re-energize our image and attract a younger audience. How do I approach word of mouth in a genuine and authentic way when we've only done traditional communications / advertising?
So I assume from that question that it's a company that's resistant to change.
I get that feeling as well.
Yeah. So one of my other projects, socialmedia.org, if you go over there, there's lots of videos about big old established brands doing stuff, and that's really what that site's about, is how older brands and bigger brands deal with this kind of thing. The way to get started is two big things. One is look for little wins. Can we put up referral forms on a few web pages? Can we get a basic Facebook page started? Can we take some of our existing video and move it over to YouTube? It's already produced, but can we get more people sharing it? So you have some early non-radical wins that show, hey, if we do engage in ways that people can share, they'll actually share it. The second thing you do is look for every way you can tie word of mouth success to traditional metrics. So when people share something online, make sure it includes either a link or a coupon code that you can track. Or if you want someone to talk about you in the real world, make sure that when they come in the store or to your website, you have some way to capture a lead source. But in the end, every word of mouth conversation results in some sort of interaction or action that you probably already have a tracking mechanism for. So if you can tie your word of mouth experiments to numbers people are comfortable with, they're much more likely to adopt and accept these word of mouth ideas.
Okay, so there are lots and lots of questions. Andy, I don't know how much longer you can go.
Why don't we do a couple more and then send me them, and we'll put together a giant blog post where we answer all the rest.
Okay, that sounds great.
I don't know if you just told me I'm answering 400 questions. Or...
No, it's not 400.
I agreed to do it.
Don't panic. What about contests or drawings on Facebook to get more people to share news about us or friend us? Is this what you would consider a payment incentive and hence not the best approach to gaining followers?
It works, but sometimes it works for the wrong reason. So it's not bad, but you wouldn't walk up to somebody in the real world and say, if you'll be my friend, I'll give you a present. If you talk to me, I'll buy you an iPad. It's not how real people interact. So if a true fan likes what you do, they're gonna talk to you because they like what you do. If you have to somehow gimmick it up or trick them into doing it or give them a freebie, it'll work, but they're not really a fan. They're there for the incentive. They're not there because they like what you do. And you compare that to, let's say, a really interesting how-to video. How do you solve XYZ problem that happens to use our product? And if they share that, they're there for the problem. I mean, they're there for the incentive. So they're there for they're not there for the incentive. They're there for the right reason. So getting followers is different than getting true people who care about who you are and want to relay your message.
Okay, let's see here. Sorry, I was looking through all the questions. What is the role of amplification in word of mouth, and what principles should be used as one tries to amplify natural word of mouth?
So that's somebody who knows technical word of mouth marketing terms. So that's an insider question. So I'll give the basic answer. So there's two kinds of word of mouth. There is organic word of mouth, which is that stuff that people just people want to talk about you because they like you. So you do what you're going to do anyway, and they start sharing it. Amplified word of mouth is when you do a specific word of mouth campaign that's designed to get people talking, and that may be social media or a tell a friend campaign or something like that. And they're both equally good. So amplification is this idea that it's great if someone tells their spouse about you at home. It's much better if they post that review to Amazon, or they put it on their Facebook page, or they tweet it. So when you find people talking about you, when you find people making recommendations, do everything you can do to help them tell more friends. And when I talk about word of mouth tools, I'm really talking about this idea of how do you help your fans tell more friends about you.